Have you had this experience of sharing a great idea only to see it copied and presented in novel ways as someone else's? In this race for content generation, gaining followers, and becoming influencers, true thought leadership is diluted, original ideas are stolen and presented over and over again in ingenious ways. Plagiarism, information bombardment, and the current infodemic, which is a pandemic of misinformation, is growing out of proportion into disastrous problems. In all this, trust is lost and is becoming that rare ingredient hard to find. And as speakers, trust is paramount, because if your audience loses trust in you and your message, then nothing else really matters. So it is a huge responsibility for our community as a whole to come together and restore this trust. I propose 3 steps to hold up the ethics of speaking to the highest standards and remain credible, trusted speakers. Number 1, quote the right research. Now, research. This is one of the most commonly used, rather misused word these days. No, searching on Google is not research. Research in its true sense typically involves a very deep stuff, probing the right problem, probing deeply into the right problem, methodical analysis, systematic analysis, and rational interpretation. So although it is very common these days to say research says to back up information, back up something that you say, what is really missing here is which research, whose research, has this research been vetted or not? Has the information in the research been interpreted correctly or not? So I'll just tell you an example, because just recently when I was discussing this talk with some friends from APSS, a couple of them highlighted to me issues with a model that is very commonly used among speakers who speak on communication. So this is the Mehrabian model, which has this rule of 7 to 38 to 55. So according to which only 7% accounts for verbal communication, and the rest is all attributed to body language and tonality of voice. That is huge. So the misuse happens when it is applied to all contexts of communication. But when you really go back to the original research, and even Mehrabian himself actually has stated that this cannot be applied to all situations. It's very contextual. And the study is very limited in many different ways. So I would say that it is okay to be skeptical, and even a good idea to remain skeptical about research, because then you start getting curious and you ask more questions and you start probing deeper. So as I said earlier, Google is not the place for getting relevant information. You need to look up research papers and even perhaps get in touch with the research paper authors to, say, for example, through a discussion or a teleconference or an interview, to get to know more about the topic and to make sure that you've got the information right. So these are some of the steps that you can do to ensure that the research that you're going to present to back up your information is correct. Now, once you are confident about the research, the next step is to remember to make an attribution. This is something which I think most people actually accidentally forget, but something to really keep in mind, because you need to make an attribution to the author or the source of the information, irrespective of whichever platform you present the information, be it a blog, be it a book, an online course, or speeches. So in speeches, it is possible to give an oral citation simply by starting the sentence with by giving reference to the author or the source. Say, for example, in a 2010 study led by Dr. X from Harvard Medical School. So that way you're giving proper oral citation and an attribution. So, just now as I was hearing all these talks about imposter syndrome and vulnerability, it also struck me that giving attribution actually takes a load off your shoulders. You don't have to know it all. You don't have to be the guru that knows it all. Attribute and acknowledge someone and lift that other person also up, So this is something I think we all must remember, especially to prevent plagiarism, which is so rampant these days, especially in the digital world. So last but not the least is to present your own original ideas. So all these other things that I mentioned is like, when you're sharing your original idea and you need some substantial information to back up your information, especially if you're a non-expert. Say, for example, some things that I commonly see during this COVID days are like stress affecting immunity. So the speaker may not be an immunologist, but maybe someone speaking on resilience or something like that. So do find out the research article and give an attribution, and then it is totally fine for you as a non-expert to speak about stress affecting immunology, your immunity. So this, I would like to end my little talk today by wrapping up and summarizing this by giving you a little mantra, or rather a rap song to hum as you prepare your next speech. So RAP stands for R for research, the right research. A for attribution, acknowledge authors. And P, present your own original ideas and prevent plagiarism completely. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lakshmi.